Sarah believed that she was doing everything perfectly well. She waited on Jake's every need, ironed out every argument, and never refused him his weekend plans, even when a feeling of exhaustion hung from her shoulders like a heavy coat. But one night, when Jake finally blew up and informed her that he felt choked by her perpetual people-pleasing, Sarah discovered something incredibly insightful. She was not loving Jake as much as Jake needed to be loved. She was loving him as much as she had learned by surviving her childhood. Marriage and family therapists Dr. Milan and Kay Yerkovich have spent 40 years unraveling this mystery. In researching this book, the authors discovered that our love behaviors aren't chance quirks or conscious choices, but sophisticated survival strategies we learned as children. These patterns of relationship, defined by Yerkovich and Yerkovich as love styles, are wired into us so unconsciously that we import them into every relationship like blueprints for relationships that we can't see. The pleaser grows up walking on eggshells around an angry or overly critical parent, learning that love means constant vigilance and self-sacrifice. These children become emotional barometers, reading the mood of every room and adjusting their behavior accordingly. What seems like selfless devotion is actually a sophisticated defense mechanism. If I can keep everyone happy, maybe I can avoid the emotional explosions that terrified me as a child. The developmental research from Harvard demonstrates that children living in a condition of chronic stress have their nervous systems become hypervigilant, always scanning for proof of disapproval. The pleaser's apparent selflessness hides an exhausting inner monologue. Am I doing enough? Are they mad at me? How can I fix this before it gets out of hand? Victims learn young that safety exists in the shadows. Growing up in unstable home environments where violence erupts without warning, children master the art of disappearing even while physically in plain sight. They retreat into vivid imaginary worlds where they are in control and develop what psychologists call dissociative coping as a way of protecting themselves from overwhelming environments. Surprisingly, neuroscience research shows that children who frequently dissociate actually develop enhanced creativity and imagination as their brains learn to construct elaborate mental escape routes. However, this same coping mechanism can make adult intimacy feel dangerously exposing, leading victims to unconsciously choose partners who mirror their chaotic childhoods because familiarity feels safer than the unknown territory of genuine peace. The controllers learn that vulnerability is peril. In households where safety was a luxury, children develop emotional barriers and promise that they will never feel powerless again. They acquire what scientists call hyper-controlling behaviors, not because control is a personality trait, but because loss of control is interpreted by their bodies as a survival threat. The controller's rage isn't actually rage at all. It's fear disguised as something more formidable. UCLA's Center for Everyday Lives research shows that controlling individuals actually have increased stress reactions to uncertainties, their cortisol levels spiking whenever events become unpredictable. Vacillators grew up with inconsistent love, never knowing when affection might appear or disappear. These children develop what attachment researchers call anxious, preoccupied patterns, becoming exquisitely sensitive to the slightest shifts in their partner's attention or mood. They idealize new relationships with the desperate hope that this time love will be steady and sure. Neuroimaging research demonstrates that vacillator types exhibit increased activity in their anterior cingulate cortex, the part of the brain responsible for registering social pain. This means feeling rejection more intensely than other individuals, as though there's a volume control in their mind that's always turned up for emotional hurt. Avoiders learn emotional self-reliance early, discovering that emotions are messy and autonomy is survival. In logic-prizing families, children develop what psychologists call deactivating strategies, unconsciously shutting down their attachment system so they don't feel the pain of unmet emotional needs. They become adults who genuinely believe they're fine on their own and don't realize they've conditioned themselves to stop feeling the very connections they secretly long for. Surprisingly, a University of Rochester study found that avoiders aren't less emotional than other people. They simply have restricted access to their emotional experience. During stress response testing, avoiders showed the same elevated heart rate and increased cortisol levels as anxious individuals while reporting feeling calm and untroubled. Learning your love style isn't about blame or giving up. It's about awareness and choice. Once we understand the hidden patterns that drive our relationships, we can become intentional about how we want to love and be loved. The pleaser can learn to express their needs. The victim can learn to advocate for themselves. The controller can practice trusting. The vacillator can learn to slow down and reality check their emotions. And the avoider can learn to open the door to emotional connection. The most encouraging finding from attachment research is neuroplasticity, the brain's remarkable ability to form new pathways throughout our lives. We actually can rewire new love patterns and create the kind of connection we yearned for as children. What we can now deliberately build as adults through conscious practice, therapy, and secure relationships